47% of online leads don't get any calls. Zero calls. You doing it in 24 hours is not bad at all. Now you're way ahead of that. Now it's like within 5 minutes, if it comes in and she's on it, right? It's huge improvement.
I could see the massive impact that it has. So in the last 2 days, she's booked 4 buyer consults. It's close to 1.2 million sales volume that I could be working with. I feel pretty confident just this week she's set $3.8 million in sales volume worth of appointments.
All right, folks, we are back, and I've got a good one for you guys today. We've got Nathan Phillips. He's a real estate agent out in North Carolina, and he's going to tell us, about the great results he's gotten so far with his brand new ISA, Sarah. But first things first, Nathan, why don't you introduce yourself here for the audience a little bit? Tell us about your business. Tell us how you got into real estate, and then I want to talk about, why did you decide to hire an ISA? Go for it.
Yeah. So first off, thanks for having me. It's good to talk to you today. The way that I got into real estate, I've actually been licensed for about 4 years, but I really didn't start taking things seriously until probably the beginning of this year, when I was just, I was working in finances, and I was like, if I want to have the kind of life that I want, then I'm going to have to make some changes. So I decided to start taking my real estate stuff seriously. And then around April, I really just pulled the plug, went all in on real estate, and
Wow.
it's been a good experience so far. Um, so, like I say, in April, I decided I'm going full tilt, and I've been doing pretty well in what was it, July to August, kind of in between those 2 months. I ended up doing between 7 to 10 deals, and I was just kind
Oh,
of
wow.
a little in. Oh yeah, I was
The
a little
the
in
first
over
step,
my
that's
head.
a pretty good year for like essentially a brand new agent. That's not bad.
Yeah. Honestly, it blew my mind. I didn't think
Yeah.
that I'd be able to rock it this way. But I'm Christian. God's been good to me, and I just think that I think that it's all part of a big plan, and I'm just glad to be where I am. So, anyways, we we started or I started getting pretty busy, July, August, and I was just like, man, there's two things. Number one, I can't keep going at this rate and keep up with everything that I've got, plus keep new business coming in. And I've seen and watched enough real estate stuff to know that, the cycle of every bad realtor is, you got some really great highs and then you hit some really low lows. So
Right.
I knew I was on a high and I didn't want to come crashing down. So, I actually originally started off with Riva. I tried to get a virtual assistant with
Oh,
Riva.
okay.
It's REVA. I think it's real estate virtual assistants or something like that.
Got it.
Um, and this was actually before I went full time, just because I was kind of trying to get there. But the results that I had with Riva, they were terrible. Like, I tried working with that VA. I tried giving her the same coaching and stuff that I'm working with you guys now on, and it really just didn't go anywhere when I was working with them. Um, so when I started, kind of thinking to myself back in July, August timeframe, I need to get some help. Riva wasn't on my radar, but I knew that that kind of um, support is what I needed. And I'm part of a Facebook group where you're on, and I saw a bunch of posts that you were putting up, and a lot of the stuff that you say in your posts just really resonated with me and how I approach sales in general. Um, so I was like, it kind of seems like we have similar mindsets. And I think with what we're doing, mindset is kind of everything. So I decided to go with you guys, give you a shot, and see what could happen.
I love that. So thanks for sharing that story. So, but I want to break that down. There's a lot of really interesting stuff, you said. So you start for all intents and purposes, you start full time in April, right? And April to August, 3, 4 months, your business kind of blows up. So, and I can already hear the audience going, "Wait, hold on, talk about that, right?" So, Nathan, the first year for most real estate agents when they go full time, they usually tell them, a stack up, 6 month emergency fund because you not might get paid for 6 months, right? That's the I'm going to call it the conventional wisdom, the typical approach, saying, "Oh, you're not going to get paid for all these months and months and months." Well, it seems like you didn't listen to that at all. Like you just went all in, and you almost immediately had, a lot of people to work with. So was that like personal database? Was that internet leads? Was that prospecting based? Tell us a little bit more because that rush of business kind of convinced you, hey, I need leverage now. Like this is not I don't want this to be a flash in the pan. I want this to be, I want to sustain this as a business. What helped you have that, initial burst of success? It's not typical. That's actually really, really extraordinary.
Yeah, it's definitely not typical from a lot of people I've talked to.
Yeah.
And full transparency, man, I didn't expect it. I expected to be that statistic, not get paid for
Yeah.
6+ months. I had money put aside. I actually I took out a HELOC, home equity line of credit on my house
Yeah.
just in case, the worst happens. I mean, I've got a wife
I'm
and
seeing the
two
finance
kids.
background. I'm seeing the professional background here. Like you put a plan in place. You had the contingency, you had the HELOC, you had the savings, the HELOC, you had like, backup plan to your backup plan, it sounds like.
Yeah. My wife, she definitely says I'm a planner. But it's you know, like you say, finances. I guess I've just been in it for a while, and I just want to make sure that my family gets taken care of. Um, so coming into it, I knew that I had to work hard. And for since the beginning of the year, when I kind of started thinking that I was going to kind of go into it, that's when I really started working to try to build my pipeline, try to get some things put into place. That way, when I did hit the ground running in April, I knew I had at least a little bit of traction. Um, so really, up until getting Sarah with you guys, PowerISA, I only had two lead sources, and the first lead source was Google pay-per-click ads. So that's where all my buyers and stuff come from, and then yeah, Sphere/referrals. Um, so between those two, that's kind of how I was able to do what I did.
Just kind of take off. And Google pay per click, did you manage that on your own? Did you hire a company? Because whatever it is working, right?
Yeah, no, it's working. It's working well. Um, I did not hire a company. I I I don't like spending money if I don't have to. So it was a lot of late nights, watching YouTube videos and doing online research and a lot of trial and error. I will say I've probably spent several $1,000s trying to figure out what was going to work. But then once it started working, I mean, I've paid myself back and made plenty.
Gotcha. Wow. So now even more impressed, Nathan, because yeah, that takes some time to figure out. These platforms, I mean, to an extent, they've got some usability. I mean, you can set it up, but to do it well takes some work, takes some skill. To anyone can set up and run an ad. They make it pretty easy. Making money from ads is a whole other ball game, right? The creative, you
Right.
got to put the right, keywords in there. You have to have the right system landing page, and then you got to pound the phone. Like there's no other way to really, get through to these folks. So I absolutely love that. You sat down and you crunched it out and you figured it out to make it productive. So let me lay this out there. Once you had a machine that was kind of working, you said you had some proof of concepts here. That's when you decided to add leverage and hire someone to help you out.
Yep, exactly. I mean, like I was saying, um, I hit that high and I was like, man, this is really good. But again, I want to make sure my family's taken care of. I want to do this for the long haul, so I got to make sure things keep going.
I gotcha. So as you brought on the ISA, you said you went through another company and you saw my content out there on Facebook. Appreciate that because I do that every day. Again, just trying to make sure, and a goal of that is to attract people, like-minded people, right? I love working with people, that have share my values, my ideas, right? Come on in.
Yeah.
You decide to give Power ISA a try, but initially, right? Let's talk about that plan. Initially, the plan wasn't to put your new ISA, brand new ISA, on your multi-thousand-dollar project, which was your Google PPC, right? What was the initial
Yeah.
plan? Go for it.
Yeah, so the initial plan with PowerISA was, obviously, what I'm doing with Google is working really well. I got a good pipeline of buyers. I'm doing closings from buyers, seemingly right and left. But I know there's two sides of this business. There's buyers and sellers. So my initial thought process was, okay, well, I'm gonna get this going, but or I'm gonna keep my buy stuff going, but to keep myself at this level, then I also want to get on some listings because that's a lot less legwork. It's a lot less time investment on my side. So my thought process was, well, if I could get somebody that can just kind of pound the phones and get me some listings to try to help build that side of the business up, then it'd be great. So that's where Power ISA came in, and I only did two interviews with you guys. The first one was like the first one was pretty good, but the personality wise, I just don't think it was 100% fit. And then I had the interview with Sarah, and the interview with Sarah, it just went really well. I could tell that she really knew how to dig into conversation and not only extract the information that we need, but make it conversational.
Mm.
And that's something that I learned was really valuable with my PPC leads. Um, so I was like, all right, well, she seems like she could be a good fit. I don't want to do what I did with Reva and just kind of dive into it. So I told my coach rep that hey, I want to interview a couple more people, and we'll just kind of see what happens. But the thing is, like I think it didn't take me 30 minutes of kind of ruminating over the interview in my mind. I was like, man, I don't know. She's just something about it. I
Gotcha.
think I'm going to go with it. So I shot my coach an email and was like, hey, I've thought about it. Let's just go ahead and do it.
Do it.
Uh,
Like my gut says, we gotta lock her in. Right? She might not be available in a few days. Who knows, right? 100%.
yeah, yeah. So we did, and went a couple days. We had the onboarding call. Everything went well. Got her set up on the dialer. She started doing some FISBO and expired dialing for me. And within the first week, I was already getting some pretty good feedback from the different expireds and FISBOs that she was setting appointments with.
Wow.
So I was pretty impressed with that.
So
Um,
she was setting appointments from like first week. Like you're already talking to FISBO sellers, expired sellers.
yeah, yeah. Which like I mean that kind of blew me away. I knew she was gonna do pretty well, but I didn't know that she was gonna move that fast.
Gotcha.
Um, so I think that just watching her and seeing what she was doing, I just kind of thought to myself, like, yeah, well, she's doing really good with this stuff. At some point, I want to move her over to my Google stuff because I'm staying busy with appointments. I can't keep doing all the follow-ups and the phone calls for new leads and stuff too. Um, and the deciding factor for me to kind of open that realm up to her was last week, and this is only week number two, mind you, like we're on week three right now.
Yeah.
But during week two, she set a listing appointment for me that was $750,000. It was somebody that their property had been on the market for almost a year and they had expired. They weren't happy with the way that their agent marketed it, and she was just able to talk to them and kind of explain our approach to things that me and her have kind of talked about. And I told her how I run listing presentations and stuff. She articulated it very well to the person, and she was able to book the appointment. So when she was able to nail that listing presentation for me, I was like, yeah, she's going in. She's able to kind of take control of the gold mine I've got, so to speak. And I just put that trust in her, and she's doing really well with it so far.
I love that because you had a plan in place, right? I think it's a safe plan, conservative plan where you kind of get them started not on your top lead source. I never recommend that. Got to get them started on something else, right? And for you, Nathan, it was a brand new lead source. You had a couple. It was like a third, lead source for you because you're already doing your Sphere, already doing your Google pay per click. Let's try, Expire. Let's try, for sale by owner. Let's get some traction there, which is that's awesome because if she can set appointments there, now it's just you got to figure out how to close them and get them to sign on the dotted line, right? So both you guys, it's always a risk, but both you guys working there and showing results is great because she accelerated that process. Like you were going to give her, a little bit of time. Let's see if she can build up the she can earn the right to call, the good leads, the Glengarry leads, like the really good ones, that you
Yeah,
rightfully you're protecting those because they cost a lot of money. You know how they work. You know how to convert them on your own, and she's adding leverage now to your highest performing lead source, right? So I absolutely love that. So right now, is she doing both, kind of combining outbound prospecting and then converting those inbound leads?
yep, yep. Right now she's doing both. I spent a few hours over the last week trying to build out a system. So in the morning, like the first half of the day, basically, she's calling all of my new inbound Google PPC leads. And she's also touching base with any prospects that maybe have been in the system for a while, but I haven't been able to get in touch with. And to me, one of the biggest advantages right now is she because she's active, she's able to call the leads in that first 5 minute time frame. Whereas, me, I was so tied up and busy, it'd probably be like 24 hours sometimes before I
No.
was able to reach out to
Yeah.
somebody. But now,
Yeah, and
you
and
know,
that's realistic. Though, thank you for sharing that because most agents would like to be 24 hours, from where the lead comes in. The reality is most agents are not, right? And the research, a really good study came out last year, October last year. 47% of online leads don't get any calls. 47, not, like not one call, not 24 hours later, zero calls. Zero, and I believe it. Like I'm 100% like
yeah,
yeah, 100, yeah, for real. How to, Google pay per click, SEO, registration, all of the above, people asking for information. 47% get zero calls, right? So, you doing it 24 hours is not bad at all compared to what the average is, which is, terrible, right? But you're like way ahead of that. 24 hour up to 24 hours. Now it's like up within 5 minutes, if it comes in and she's on it, right? So that's amazing. It's
yeah.
a huge improvement.
Yeah, yeah, it is. And I mean, even, just this week, like it's the first week she's been on it. But I can see the massive impact that it has. Because like this, what are we, say Thursday? Yeah. So in the last 2 days, she's booked, I think, 4 buyer consults for me from those appointments. And out of those 4 buyer consults, I think it's close to 1.2 million sales volume that I could be working with. Um, and I I feel pretty confident just from the conversations I've had with them already. And I've had 2 of those I've actually talked to and set in-person appointments with. Um, so I mean, I think it's pretty great. And really, just to speak to her kind of overall success, um, just this week, she's set I think $3.8 million in sales volume worth of appointments for me.
Wow. Okay. So and that's combining Google pay per click, and outbound prospecting, expired and visible. 3.8 million just in the last week. Holy cow. So yeah, that's an awesome result. That's and these are leading indicators, right? Nathan, you still got to take the ball over the finish line, right? You got to score. But that's a
Yeah.
really good setup. That's a really, really strong pipeline. And kind of, towards the end of the summer or fall months, I don't know what the seasonality is over there, but market's winding down across the whole country. So you're kind of beating the
Yeah.
market, in that sense. So it looks like you're gonna have a really, really strong, close of 2025 and just getting ready to just knock it out of the park in 2026. Do you have a goal yet for 2026? Where do you want to be at?
Well, actually, no, I don't have a goal for 2026 yet. Uh, my goal for this year I've blown past, and now I'm
Yeah,
just trying to do as
oh,
much
I'm
as I
sure you
possibly
did.
can.
You nuked it. Just eliminated that goal. But
Yeah.
you should set a really good one for 2026. Something that's going to challenge you and take into account you got leverage now, right? If your goal was
Yeah.
getting one deal a month, like within your first year, you're going to crush that. Within a few months. It's great. What's the next one? Now that you have leverage, what is a realistic goal? Given that, right? So we're not going to answer that here on this call, but I would challenge you to really go, okay, great. Now that I've got, these tools, you got three pillars of business. Three. Agents would like to
Yep.
have one in a market like this, right? They'd like to have one really strong pillar of
Yeah.
business. You have three
Right.
pillars of business. Your sphere, your database, internet lead generation, and prospecting. And the amazing thing about that is that they're usually mutually exclusive. If one goes up, the other one tends to go down, right? Like they will pop it. They're so different. They're so diversified. Financial. Problems. It's diversified enough to where you're not vulnerable to your sphere hibernating for the winter. Or Google pay per
Mhm.
click, going up, going down, depending on the market. Because when Google pay per click is killing it, usually FISBO and expired counterbalance that, right? If Google pay per click goes down, expired and will go up, right? The Google
Yeah.
will expire more, and
Right.
they kind of they're like a counterweight. So it's a really, really smart. I don't know if that was your thought, your process behind it. That's a really smart strategic move because it's going to isolate your business from these market shifts. And like you said at
Yeah.
the very beginning of the call, that roller coaster of income, the really high, the really low lows is the number one reason people leave the industry, right? They just can't deal with the stress and of not having that income to think about, right? And it just knocks them out of
Right.
the business 100, whether they're licensed or not. And they're just there's no longer active. They got to go get a job, right? So
Yeah.
congratulations, Nathan, on having such a successful first year full time in real estate. But let me ask you this, to kind of close it out here. If you were talking to someone, right, that's considering adding leverage, hiring an ISA, because they figured out one or maybe two lead sources, and but they're not sure, right? They might have been burned in the past. They might have tried some other options, didn't work out for them. Wasn't a high quality person, wasn't a great system. What would you recommend they do?
100% I would recommend that they talk to you guys, and try to figure out a way to implement what you guys are doing into their business. It takes work from both sides. I've worked alongside with Sarah for several hours over the last few weeks, just making sure that we're in line with the goals, and that she's got the proper training on the tools that I'm giving her. But then also, I mean, you guys are pouring into her on the coaching, and helping her, how to talk to these leads and stuff like that. So if I was to, talk to someone who is thinking about, considering leverage, I would say, yeah, just do it. Shoot Gustavo a message, talk to PowerISA, and at least in my experience, it's 100% worth it.
I love it. I love it. Awesome. Nathan, thanks so much for making the time. I know you're a really busy guy nowadays. And probably only going to get busier. So appreciate you making the time to share this with the community too, right? I think people want to see these stories, and they always have these questions, right? So I'm the voice of the
Yeah.
customer here, voice of the audience, trying to, get all the great nuggets out of it. And you've been awesome. So thanks for the candor And thanks for giving everyone, a lot this testimonial to let them know that this is doable. This is possible, right? If you did this in your first full time, yeah, in fact, you're the first 6 months. Never forget first year, first few months of really, really full time in real estate and having tremendous success in a really tough market. You're the Winston-Salem area, one of the hottest, along with Raleigh, Charlotte, just one of the
Yeah.
hottest markets, in the U.S. last few years. Very competitive market. So kudos to you, for jumping in, going off the deep end, and with a family. Holy cow, man! That just makes it a little bit harder, a little bit riskier. But so far, I think you've covered your bases really, really well. So congratulations, Nathan, and I appreciate you, man. Thanks for making the time.
Yeah, man. Thanks a lot. You guys take care.